You ever meet someone who acts like the universe personally appointed them rulemaker for everyone within a 5-mile radius? Yeah, that's exactly who I was dealing with. I wish I was making this up. Picture a woman in her 50s with sunglasses big enough to land a helicopter on, lips pursed like she's sucking lemons, a clipboard practically stapled to her hand, and the kind of voice that could slice drywall. That's Karen, our HOA president. Well, self-proclaimed queen, really. And she didn't just cross a line. She plowed right through it and kept going. Let me set the scene. I live out at the edge of this so-called peaceful neighborhood, my property brushing right up against an old wooden fence. Not exactly pretty, leans a little, creaks a lot, but it's been there since. Before most of the McMansions sprouted up. That fence, to me, was history, was stubborn, was home. But Karen? Oh, Karen looked at that fence like it was a crime against humanity. Claimed it was an eyesore, non-compliant, and basically the reason for all modern ills. I told her, Karen, this fence was standing before your HOA bylaws were even a twinkle in someone's eye. Did she listen? Of course not. Karen doesn't do compromise, she does bulldozers. I'm not kidding. One Saturday, I wake up to this god-awful rumbling. At first, I think, maybe the county's finally fixing potholes. Nope. Out my window, there's a full-on bulldozer parked on my lawn, Karen standing next to it looking like a low-budget villain from an HGTV disaster special. I run outside, still in my pajamas, coffee cup in hand, trying to process what's happening. We're taking it down, she announces, as if she's the president of the United States and not just self-appointed monarch of our HOA. I try to reason with her. Karen, you can't just, this is my land. She waves her clipboard like it's Excalibur, tells me she has full authority as HOA president. And just as the bulldozer lurches forward, here comes a county surveyor in a battered truck, looking all kinds of cranky. He takes one look, whips out a map and measuring tape, and after some tense silence, turns to Karen and says, "This fence, it's the county border. If you touch it, you're tampering with government property. I mean, you ever see someone go from power trip to panic attack in 3 seconds flat?" Karen's face crumpled. The bulldozer guy backed out so fast you'd think he was allergic to handcuffs. County folks gave Karen a little "don't mess with the border" speech, tossed in the word felony, for good measure, and left. There I am, coffee in hand, trying not to laugh, and Karen standing in the mud, dreams of glory turning into the world's biggest oops. But if you think that stopped her, oh no, Karen wasn't built like that. You ever meet someone who's just relentless? Like a telemarketer who keeps calling even after you fake your own death? After the bulldozer fiasco, Karen escalated, started stuffing my mailbox with official-sounding HOA letters, accusing me of everything from property neglect to harboring dangerous wildlife. She was talking about a couple. Squirrels, mind you, not rabid coyotes. Then, she went full drama, called an emergency HOA meeting, plastered the neighborhood with flyers about my criminal fence. I showed up just to see what circus act she'd cooked up next. And wow, she outdid herself. Picture Karen at the front of the room with a PowerPoint. First slide, my fence in blurry zoom. Second, a shack from a horror movie. Third, an eagle, because apparently my fence was a threat to national wildlife. People started snickering. Then she declared that my fence was a security risk, like it was the Berlin Wall or something, letting criminals pour into the neighborhood. At this point, a guy in the back mutters, "It's a fence, Karen, not a portal to another dimension." Someone else starts giggling about the squirrels plotting a coup. But Karen wasn't done. She waves around a grainy nighttime photo, claiming it's proof of criminal activity. Turns out, it's just my dog going about his business. By now, folks are laughing so hard they're wiping tears. But then she drops the bomb, claims she called the sheriff about my border violation. And as if on cue, the sheriff himself walks in, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Karen lights up, thinking he's here to arrest me. Instead, he calmly tells the room that the fence isn't just legal, it's protected. Tamper with it, you're messing with county property. Suddenly, Karen's got nothing left but a jaw hanging wide open and the slow realization she's become the punchline. You'd think that would be the end. But nope, Karen goes nuclear. Next morning, I find spray-painted words all over my fence. Illegal border and hazard, except she misspelled it. So now my fence is apparently a lizard. There's a reporter across the street with a camera, but the guy looks like he borrowed the equipment from a pawn shop, wearing a press shirt he made with a Sharpie. I ask what's going on. Karen puffs up and claims she's alerting the media to the danger my fence poses. The reporter mumbles he's independent, which in Karen speak means she found him on Craigslist. While Karen's busy giving the world's most ridiculous interview, the sheriff shows up again, probably because he's tired of her blowing up his phone. Looks at my fence, at the dripping paint, and right at Karen's hands, which are still covered in red. He asks if she spray painted the fence. She tries to blame criminals crossing the border, gestures at her Craigslist cameraman, but even the sheriff can't keep a straight face. He pulls out his notepad and says she's being cited for vandalism and filing false reports. The reporter grabs his camera and literally runs down the street. Neighbors start peeking out, filming the whole thing. And suddenly Karen is the headline star of her own neighborhood scandal. After that, the county finally had enough. They slapped her with a fine so big she had to step down from her precious HOA presidency. My fence, still standing. Spray paint washed off, got a new coat of sealant. Someone even put a little American flag on top for good measure. Started calling it the Great Wall of Karen. It's the neighborhood joke now. Karen, every time she tries to act important, all anyone has to do is say, "Remember the fence?" And she turns redder than her spray paint. So yeah, Karen tried to bulldoze my fence, tried to turn the HOA into her personal army, tried to manufacture her own fake news. In the end, the only thing she managed to tear down was her own reputation. Me? I just stood back and let the fence and the law do all the work. Now, every time I walk outside, I just tip my coffee mug to the old fence and smile. But hey, what do you think? Did justice get served here, or did we all just get lucky that time? Drop your take below. Would you have handled it the same, or gone to war? Tell me your own wild HOA story, because I know every neighborhood's got one, and who knows, maybe next time, the fence fights back that you'd think after the spray paint incident, things would finally settle down, right? I mean, the woman got caught red-handed, literally, her little news stunt blew up in her face. The sheriff handed her a fine so big she practically had to crowdfund to pay it off. And the neighborhood had a brand new folk hero, my busted old fence. But if you've ever tangled with a true HOA tyrant, you know it's never really over. There's always a last stand, some desperate Hail Mary where they try to claw back their control, even when everyone else has moved on. So, I start to notice Karen isn't exactly laying low. Sure, she's lost the president's title, but she's still roaming the block like she's got a badge, walking her dog at weird hours, inspecting mailboxes, snapping photos of every little thing. It's like she can't help herself. A week or two goes by, and, no joke, a new rumor pops up on the neighborhood app. Apparently, Karen's been telling anyone who'll listen that I bribed the county, that the sheriff was in my pocket, and the fence is now a front for, get this, an illegal chicken operation. Yeah, chickens. I almost spit my coffee out reading that one. Now, I don't even own chickens. I don't even like chickens. But that didn't stop Karen from walking house to house, clipboard in hand, gathering evidence. One evening I look out, and there she is, crouched by my fence with a flashlight, whispering into her phone. It's like a bad episode of CSI, Suburbs. I hear her muttering about feathers, feathers. Turns out, some local kids had left a rubber chicken on my fence as a joke. Now Karen's convinced it's proof of my so-called poultry empire. You ever reach that point where things get so ridiculous, you stop getting mad and just enjoy the show? That's where I was. So instead of flipping out, I decide to lean in. Next neighborhood potluck, I show up with a tray of deviled eggs and a big grin. Courtesy of the illegal chicken farm. I tell everyone. Folks lose it. Somebody else brings chicken nuggets. By the end of the night, we're all laughing about Operation Henhouse. Even old Mr. Sutter from across the street, who hasn't cracked a smile in a decade, chuckles and says, "Careful, next thing you know she'll have the FBI watching your rooster." But of course, Karen doesn't see the humor. If anything, it makes her double down. She puts in a formal complaint with the new HOA president. Nice guy, young, no nonsense. He comes by, checks the property, and, shockingly, finds 0 chickens, illegal or otherwise. He actually laughs, tells me he's more worried about the raccoons in his own attic. Karen tries to rally support at the next meeting, but the wind's out of her sails. People are just tired. No one wants another fence summit, and the cookies this time are store-bought. But then comes the twist. Remember how I said every good neighborhood story has one? Well, a few weeks after the chicken scandal, a new family moves in next door. Single mom, 2 kids, sweet as can be, but English isn't their first language and they're nervous about settling in. Karen sees them as fresh meat. She shows up with her rules, her clipboard, that same smile that doesn't reach her eyes, and starts laying down the law. What flowers they can plant, how short the grass should be, the whole drill. Now, I'm not big on speeches, but something about this just burns me up. I walk over, introduce myself, tell the new neighbors if they ever need help, or, say, a crash course in dealing with the local HOA. They know where to find me. Karen tries to interrupt, starts reciting some arcane bylaw about holiday decorations. But this time, the new HOA president steps in. He tells Karen, right there on the sidewalk, that she's not allowed to harass residents, and if she wants to keep helping, maybe she should join the welcome committee and bake a cake instead of serving up citations. You know that moment when a bully finally loses their audience? That's what it felt like. Karen stands there, fuming, realizing nobody's buying what she's selling. The new neighbors smile, relax a little, and suddenly the street feels a whole lot friendlier. Somebody brings over homemade cookies, real ones this time. The kids run around, playing near what's now the most famous fence in town. It's just normal again. Every once in a while, Karen still tries to stir things up. She'll leave a note about trash bins or send a mass email about community standards. But it doesn't land the way it used to. People have seen behind the curtain now. They know sometimes the biggest threat to a peaceful neighborhood isn't a leaning fence or a rogue squirrel. It's a busybody with too much time on her hands and not enough sense to just let folks be. Now, I sit out on my porch some evenings, coffee in hand. Fence standing strong. Sometimes, a neighbor will pass by, tip their hat, and say, "Heard the chickens are plotting again." We laugh, because we all know, if you can survive a Karen, you can survive just about anything. And you better believe, whenever someone new moves in, we warn them, watch out for the clipboard patrol, but don't worry, around here, the fence always wins. So what about you? Got any Karen stories that top mine? Ever have to defend your little patch of home against neighborhood nonsense? Drop your wildest tale below. Maybe next time, I'll tell you what happened when Karen discovered TikTok. Spoiler alert, it involves a leaf blower, a Halloween skeleton, and about 1,000 views, but that's a story for another day.